Ole Miss adds a quarterback commitment, and we've got a lot of SEC football to talk about.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst, in for Stephen Willis. Thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen wherever you get your pods. We're free and available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and any place you download them. Take them on the go. Locked On Ole Miss. And today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. We're going to be talking about the SEC overarching theme of who's up, who's down, who's trending. We're also going to be talking a little bit about Ole Miss hosting LSU in a revenge matchup. And to start the show, the Rebels get a commitment from the transfer portal of a big-time talented quarterback. This was not expected the first time they did it. Now they had another. Ole Miss is the quarterback place where anything goes. But with Lane Kiffin, it is also a place where quarterbacks come to end up in the NFL. So it's not really shocking. The player in question is Maealiuaki Smith. He's a young man that played at Oklahoma State prior to coming over to Ole Miss. He is from Juniper Serra High School just outside of LA. Highly recruited, ended up at Oak State, but now, once again, he will be an Ole Miss Rebel. 6'3", a little over 200 pounds. He can move. He can throw on the run, and he's a guy that can make plays from the pocket. I believe that Kiffin would probably say, you know what, he's a little bit like Jackson Dart. Dart could take off and make plays with his feet, but Jackson would prefer to throw from the pocket. Not saying that's the only way he'd want to do it if he could, but as a rule, Jackson Dart was going to do his best work when his feet were set in the pocket. He was stepping forward and throwing the football. But what I've seen of Maealiuaki Smith from his high school film, etc., I would lean that way as well. Now, I'm not saying that he isn't going to run RPO and whatnot. He will. But at the same time, I'm okay with it either way because Kiffin tends to figure out each of his quarterbacks and tailor the play calls and the overall game plan to the skills behind center, not the other way around. The guy behind center having to adjust to Kiffin. So that's the good news. The other part with this, he's not going to have to play right away. Now, let's think about this now. Ole Miss has Austin Simmons on the roster. He's going to play for at least a year or so before he probably heads to the NFL. Maealiuaki will be able to develop. I don't know how it's going to play out. I'm not going to dive into the quarterback depth chart with Ole Miss right now because, again, really this is Austin Simmons' team. And we'll talk more about him during the show, by the way. But that's okay. You've got to have depth. Maddox and some of the other guys that have come onto the roster, teams that have picked up players from Ole Miss that left, it all plays itself out. And in fall camp, we'll talk more about the depth chart. But right now, let's just discuss the fact that you got another talented arm in the room. And I think it's fascinating that despite a talented room, again, Ole Miss gets a guy to come from the portal. There's no guarantees with where Maealiuaki is going to end up being on the depth chart. He didn't even get to go through spring. He doesn't know the playbook. But yet he's transferring from Oklahoma State to Ole Miss. What's that say about the respect that Kiffin gets? What's that say about the overall thoughts with Charlie Weiss Jr. as the OC? Like the whole staff. I try not to name one guy because I feel like I'm leaving somebody out. But Weiss has done a nice job at Ole Miss, and they're doing a good job overall of developing that position as a group. It's not just Lane, just to be clear. So, am I shocked they got somebody? No. Am I surprised they got somebody with this much talent and upside? I am. He's going to have 3 years to play. I think this is a really good pickup for Ole Miss because, again, you're going to have a very competitive room in the SEC, probably the most competitive league in all of college football. Now let's transition. And speaking of quarterback, I talked a little bit about this the last time I did a pod here, and let's do it again. LSU going to Ole Miss. I've said it many times that I think we're going to see Austin Simmons be really good this year. But I want to take the next few moments to discuss why I think this could be the coming out party for Austin Simmons. Took the liberty to pull up some stats on the LSU defense last year. And I know they're going to be adding a lot of players and whatnot, but the biggest problem for them wasn't defensive talent. Oh, no. LSU's defensive talent, while it's improved, probably not where it needs to be, especially with the defensive line in terms of depth. I think they'll be pretty good with the starters, Dominic McKinley and some of the guys they have. They got some NFL players, but they don't have a true no-doubter, like first-team All-American kind of guy that you're used to at Ole Miss. Got a few guys transferred in. The kid they got from Florida, pretty good pass rusher. But all of that aside, I think Simmons is going to have a chance to light them up. And here are the numbers to back up my theory. They gave up 224.3 yards per game last year, 76th in the nation. At LSU, by the way, that should never happen. Rushing, solid, but not to LSU standard by any stretch. 140.1 yards per game allowed, 51st. By the way, Bo Davis is no longer at LSU, the all-time great D-line coach. He's with the Saints, so that doesn't help them either. Total defense for LSU last year, 364.4 yards per game allowed. That is 61st in the nation. Did you really ever think that LSU would be that kind of defense? As a side note, like 61st? The Bayou Bengals, LSU 61st. That is really wild. Scoring, LSU allowed 24.3 points per game, 59th. And then the best out of all these stats that I'm going to give you, sacks, 34. That was still only 32nd in the nation. So again, Austin Simmons is a guy that I'm very confident in. But when I look at those numbers, I'm a guy that's glass half empty. You got to prove it to me. And I know they got some portal additions. I know LSU's got some good coaches, etc. But they lost Bo Davis. And they also lost other good players. Sage Ryan transferred, obviously, to Ole Miss. And they got young guys back there. DJ Pickett's going to play a lot, and he's very talented. He's insanely talented. I know the young man, but he's a freshman. By the time this game comes around, it's middle of the season. Kiffin will have his game plan ready for the LSU Tigers. Austin Simmons will be in his groove, and they're going to have a big day. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. I like LSU in this game, especially if they can run the ball, stop the run. That's the big thing with Ole Miss traditionally when they play these games. It's in the trenches. It's not going to be skill guys. It's going to be in the trenches. We'll dive into that the next time I get into this a little bit more with the LSU game. But for now, here's a couple of things I want to talk about in regards to Simmons and his guys. The skill players, I'll go into this on the other side of the break, but the skill players are going to have at least 3 plays of 30 yards in this game. That's my first prediction. When we come back, I'm going to keep on going on some predictions on the Ole Miss game when they're hosting LSU. That is next here on Locked on Ole Miss. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you and your business get to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. It's also pretty darn easy with Upwork because posting your job is free and simple. Within a day, multiple qualified candidates will be able to be chosen from. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Let's talk a little bit about the skill talent for the Rebels. A couple of points. I don't know exactly what to expect out of LSU's defense. They did get A.J. Halsey, the kid that Ole Miss absolutely wanted. Really good player. That helps their back end, no doubt, because I think he's an NFL guy. Not going to sugarcoat that. That was a tough loss for Ole Miss to LSU. But what about their corners? Who's going to be the dude? Who's going to be the nickel? How is the depth? Middle of the season, this could play a factor in the game, especially when you're considering the following. You got a player like, to start with this big body guy, De'Zhaun Stribling. That's a really good athlete. He's proven, played at Washington State. He's a guy that has speed. He's 6'2", 200 pounds. Big body guys like that, you're probably going to roll coverage to. So let's say they take Stribling out of the lineup in a sense because they're going to roll coverage to him. They don't want the big body guy doing something. Okay, that's fine. They might move him around some too, knowing Lane, knowing Coach Weiss, but that's okay. The one spot you're probably going to struggle to double, and it's almost impossible anyway, is the slot. There's too many other things that can go wrong if you double the slot most of the time. And Caden Lee might be the guy that ends up leading the SEC in catches this year. Tremendous route runner. He's a guy that we really, really think is going to be a big-time player, both Steven and I this year. We used to call him Honeycomb because of his great hair, but Honeycomb's a guy that's going to find his way into that LSU secondary and make some big plays. I said before the break, at least 3 plays of 30 or more yards in this game is what I'm projecting for Ole Miss because I just don't trust LSU secondary to be consistent. AJ Halsey, I think, will be good, but you're going to have 5 guys, not one, on the field playing DB. Avoid him by all means. Go after the other guys. That's how I would do it. I don't think Kiffin or anybody else would be all that surprised with that scenario. Stay away from the NFL player. But who's going to guard somebody as talented as Caden Lee play after play? Again, this is going to be middle of the season for this game. Both teams will have hit their stride. The injuries will be what they are. There won't be any hiding because everybody's going to have seen the film. I don't think LSU is going to cover Ole Miss that well. I really don't. Now, the tight end room's improved, but I didn't want to dive into that. I gave those stats. And again, in particular, the pass defense was 76th last year at LSU. As Bill Parcells used to say, your record is who you are. Just because you're 3-3 doesn't mean you're a good football team that just needs a break. No, you're 3-3. LSU was 76th in pass defense last year. That's atrocious. You can't tell me any LSU prognosticator thought they were going to be in the 50s, let alone the 60s or 70s in defense. Oh, we're going to be better this year. LSU fans always think that. So do the people covering LSU. They have to show me. They have to show me. And they should have to show you as well. Austin Simmons is going to have a big game against LSU. Now let's talk a little bit about it from the running back position. This is where your bread and butter is. If you're going to get over the top and beat teams like LSU, home or away, you got to be able to run the ball even when they kind of enforce their will on it, put an extra guy in the box, and it's not like LSU is struggling in terms of talent in their front seven. They still have quite a bit. It's not what I would call an on-par LSU defense because they don't have that upperclassman, no doubt about it, first-round pick that I see as a defensive lineman. They got some good players, but I don't know if they've got a dominant one. To that end, there's going to be some short yardage in goal line plays where he's not going to admit this, but Kiffin's not going to want to run Austin Simmons all that much. That's my guess. He would really like him to be the guy that goes out there and just throws the football and hands it off. So if you're going to power the football, at least if I'm right, Kewan Lacey could be a guy. Obviously, Logan Diggs, those are a couple. But don't be surprised if they use other running backs in other circumstances to their advantage schematically. Getting the ball to the perimeter in one way, shape, or form. Screen game, too, on short yardage or even a halfback pass or something like that. Don't be shocked with what Kiffin does. That'll be important to help supplement what's going on behind center with Austin Simmons. I said it earlier in the show. I'm going to say it again now. When Ole Miss is really good, the trenches are better than normal. O-line, D-line. And in this case, the O-line is going to get a chance. LSU's good, but they're not great. I don't care about the rushing total as much as I am circumstantially being efficient. Ole Miss should be, let's say, 14 attempts. They should win 5 or 6 of those at least. Winning 50% would be, obviously, you take that in a heartbeat. But I'll say they'll go 6 out of 14 on third downs, and they'll be in a lot of fourth and shorts. And that's where a guy like Kewan Lacey, and I'm just using him as an a guessing game here. He's the transfer from Missouri. Maybe he ends up being the key guy. Maybe Diggs is dinged up again. He's been dinged up most of his career. One of the power running backs for Ole Miss could have a big game here because as they spread them out and cause problems with matchups, LSU's going to have to choose. Are we going to consistently put a guy in the box, especially on 3rd and short, and risk Lane taking a shot? That's part of the cat and mouse game that makes college football the greatest game on planet Earth, in my opinion. All the intrigue because there's a lot more risk taking. You got more roster change than any other sport on the planet. And again, it's just unique when you get these rivalry games like this. So it's a lot of fun. Now, let's talk a little bit about the matchup overall with LSU's defense. Is there anywhere that you think that they're dominant against Ole Miss? I don't. I think they'll win some battles. Like, again, A.J. Halsey might be the best player on the field. You could argue that. I wouldn't have any problem with it at all. Matter of fact, I might lean that way for a good portion of this ball game. But when you're a safety, you're not in the determining factor where the ball goes. And again, I will guarantee you Ole Miss will avoid him like the plague. So if he's not making big plays for you, the guy that I would worry about the most is Dominic McKinley, the incredibly talented rising sophomore defensive tackle for the Bayou Bengals. He's really good, man. That's an NFL player. But I don't know if he's quite hit that stride to where I would say he's definitely that guy, meaning he's a game wrecker. He might be by that point. It's going to happen at some point. He's really good. Technically, coming out of high school, he'd been trained much better than most. I saw Dominic McKinley at the Under Armour All-American game a little over a year ago, and I'm like, holy cow. He was the best interior pass rusher there by a mile. Just athletic as all get out, and he was patient and used his hands with a lot of counter moves, secondary moves. He's good. But still, is he ready for prime time? And the RPO action and all the different misdirections and different things that Lane's offense does, that's hard. So I still think that they're going to gash them at least occasionally. I don't think they'll dominate LSU's front by any stretch. Run for 130, 140 yards, which ironically they gave up 140 last year. It'd be about the same for LSU. And there will be a lot of timeliness to how they attack them. That's just my take. When we come back, I'm going to talk about the SEC. We're going to transition to a broader-based conversation about Ole Miss football. Looking at the route that some of these teams are going. Is it up? Is it down? Who are some of the teams that are trending? That is next here on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. So whichever NBA team that you're into, let me ask you a question. Which player do you think is going to be the one that becomes the main go-to guy in crunch time? Maybe you want to talk about a parlay. Maybe it's just a prop on this player. Maybe he scores 10 points in a quarter, whatever it may be. Look at the players. Who do you trust? Go with your gut. So, new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Where is Ole Miss in the pecking order of the SEC starting this fall? I want to finish the show today just talking about some of the teams in the Southeastern Conference and where I think they are recruiting, a little bit of conversation about some of the head coaches, a little transfer portal, and just overall with quarterback and roster. No particular route here with any team, but it's just an overview. I'll get to Ole Miss here in a minute. There's no order on this either. I just wrote down the teams kind of randomly, so take it for what it's worth. Georgia. I have no idea what to expect from them because they got Gunnar Stockton at quarterback, and I do not trust him. They don't have a dominant guy on the D-line like they usually do. I know Jalen Carter, that's for sure. But do you think Ole Miss or anybody else that plays Georgia this year is going to get a team that's more focused? I do. I'm picking Ole Miss to win that game, but I'm not picking them to go in there and win 34-10 either. Ole Miss is a good team. They have a lot of talent, and I just don't think Georgia's quite what they were. I think they'll be up and down. They'll have a couple of games where they probably should win. Ole Miss, maybe that's one. But again, I don't trust Gunner. Running back room's a little iffy. They had their worst year rushing in a long time last season, and the defense just wasn't quite as dominant. This is a team that they got to prove it, or they're a second-tier SEC team, which is hard to imagine. I don't think that's going to happen, but they need to win some of the big games this year and get over that hump by not losing to like Ole Miss or Auburn or anybody else. They seem to have lost a little bit of their edge last year because they were so inconsistent. Maybe that'll change this next year. I don't know. They're really hard to project. And would it shock me if Georgia went 11-1? No. But the quarterback's not the same. The defense is not as dominant. Who are the playmakers for them? I don't know. Next up, Tennessee. With the Nico situation, Nico Maealiuaki obviously transferred to UCLA. Where do they go next? Like they got the quarterback that transferred and he was at App State or briefly transferred to UCLA, and now he's at Tennessee. We need to see him play. He's athletic, he's got an arm, all those things, got experience. But is Tennessee a team that you think is trending up, or are they flatlined? They're a good spot. I think they're a good program, but I kind of think they're even right now. I don't trust Tennessee because they've had so much turmoil with the Nico thing. That's going to suck the life out of you for at least a little while. But then again, maybe they can exhale too. That's possible. I wish them nothing but the best in that regard, because you don't like to see a program kind of held hostage. And in a way they were. They battled through it. Okay. But are they going to be a team that ends up making a run to go to the SEC title game? I doubt it. I see 8-4, 9-3 being more likely. They might be on the cusp of making the playoff, but I think they're going to come up a little short this year. That's my guess. They might make it, but I need to see everything work itself out, how the run game is. They lost a really good player, etc. I'm iffy on Tennessee. I think they're going to be kind of a second-tier team again. Texas, this is my preseason number one. This is going to be very brief. They got 5 guys in the portal at D tackle. They've got Arch Manning. They got Emmett Mosley, the 5th, coming in at receiver from Stanford. They filled every hole possible, and you got Arch at quarterback. If not now, when? You're Texas. You have every advantage. You got a head coach that understands play calling. They've got a really good defensive staff. They have no reason. They got Cedric Baxter coming back at running back. No reason not to be right there in the national title hunt. We'll see if I'm right or wrong, but I like them a lot this year. Bama, the old standby. I think Bama's a team that is trending up a little bit with recruiting. They're doing better. But for this season, I think they're a team that'll make the playoff. They'll be good, but I don't think they'll have the quarterback play to win it. They'll be similar to what Georgia was last year, a little inconsistent. I don't even know if they know who's the quarterback. Guaranteed? For sure, no doubt. Kalen DeVore probably has some work to do this summer and into the fall to figure that out. Defensively, they're good, but they're kind of like Georgia. They're not quite where they used to be. We'll see if that steps forward, but I don't think we're going to see top 5 defense for Bama this year. They'll be good. I think they'll make the playoff, but I don't think they're a team that's going to win it by any means. LSU, we talked a lot about them. I just need to see the defense. Garrett Nussmeier is going to throw it around. Caden Durham, they've got really good running back talent coming back. Caden being the main guy. Receivers got talent. Tight end, they got a freaky athlete, 6'6", 6'7". I'd imagine they're going to be fun there. But defensively, I need to see it. I know they got A.J. Halsey, and that might be the elixir for them. It really could. And great for LSU if that's the case. But you can avoid it, EB, and go with the other ones. It's not like quarterback where he has the ball in his hands every time. Just got to be wary of where Halsey's at. I get that. But is he dominant? I really don't think so. A couple more here. Florida, that's a good program moving forward, but I don't think good is what Gator fans are looking for. 8-4-ish, 7-5. Yeah, they're good. They can get into a bowl. but their schedule's brutal. They got DJ Lagway, but do you trust them? I don't. Let's talk about South Carolina. That defense is nasty. Pass rush in particular, speed all over the place. Got a budding quarterback. God, they can run and throw, 6'3", 240. That's kind of a nice trait. But is South Carolina going to do okay now that they're the hunted and not the hunter? Don't want to talk personnel, don't want to talk coaching, don't want to talk about their schedule. Can they handle being the hunted and not the hunter? That is really the most important part for the Gamecocks. Ole Miss, I think it really comes down to the line play. I like the young guys they got on defense, but the O-line, is it going to be good enough to get them to the SEC title game? Possibly, but that's the biggest question for me. You know my thoughts about the receivers, running backs, etc., and Austin Simmons. Very high on it. Suntarine Perkins, probably as good a player as there is in the SEC, regardless of which position. Secondary's got a lot of revamped pieces. We'll see, but that's the other part that they've got to get. If the O-line and secondary are good, Ole Miss could absolutely be in Atlanta. If it's not, 8-4 and just a bowl game. It really depends on those two spots. One more for you, just for fun here. And I don't know for sure how this is going to go, but Missouri is a unique team. Got a new quarterback, Bo Prevula, coming from Penn State. Who was the running? They got somebody else. Oh, they lost Keywan Lacey to Ole Miss too. They got somebody else on offense that was good. Oh, they got the Coleman kid transferred in from Mississippi State. He's from St. Louis. They're a team that's not being talked about enough. If Bo Prevula is good at quarterback, they got enough defensive pieces and an easy enough schedule in the SEC. Come the final weekend of the season, don't be surprised if they're still in the SEC title game hunt. They're pretty good. Do I think they're dominant? Not necessarily. They lost with the Bird and some other guys too. But they've got enough balance now where they're consistent. I think Missouri is one of the teams to kind of watch moving forward in the SEC, and they're trending up. Thank you once again for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to get all the latest news on what's going on with the Rebels. I'm Brian Smith in for Stephen Willis. We will see you again soon.